All right, it's Saturday. Y'all got to give me that. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Today is Saturday, November 30th, 2024, and we are here in the Java Cafe this morning for a special brew. I'm excited. I honor both of these folks in the space of what they do for Java with Jimmy, as well as what they do with other clients, their own personal passion around promoting equity in the electoral process, civic engagement, community engagement. They are on a local, regional, and national level in what they do. And I'm very proud and excited. And someone called, who did I have? I actually went to a Remy show and she said esteemed guest. And I was like, oh, blah, blah, blah. But I'm serious. We have esteemed guests this morning. And I'm going to ask you to do me a favor because a lot of people are really like, wait, what? With what happened with the election? There's a lot of misinformation out there, and even down to the results, like, saying there's a landslide. People are wondering what happened. What did the DNC do? From all the conversation around, the focus within the LGBTQ community, the other side, y'all know what side I'm on, the other side, catering, to the old sort of model of white men. I'm going to say this. There may be some opinions here today expressed by me that are not necessarily the opinions of the Davis system. And so I want to be clear on that. All right. So I am about to bring in, Errin took a sip and Anthony's in the background laughing. So I would like to bring in my guests this morning. First one is, I say 50% of the Davis system. She is the chief operating officer, a resident here in the Hyde Park area of Boston or somewhere in there.
I'm a Dorchester native, but I'll claim Hyde Park, yes.
Okay, a Dorchester native and claim Hyde Park. And also the 100 of their, the other 100 of their joint, Lord Jesus, I was going to say custody, of their joint union, Anthony Davis, who is also the CEO of the Davis system. And here in Boston, we love him. And for those of you that are in tune, yes, he may not be originally from Boston, but listen, this brothers came here and put roots and has had a lot of influence in some Boston politics. And so first, I would like to give Errin an opportunity. It's actually been a while since the Java family has got to hear from the Davis system, Errin and Anthony. I think it was in September. Anthony came on for my birthday. But Errin, please greet the audience. You know how it goes on in here, so I don't have to give you a whole countdown, even though I want to honor the fact that you are a guest this morning. So, Errin, would you please greet the folks, let them know how you're doing, and describe where you are now post-election in one word.
Good morning, Java family. Hi, Mama Java and Auntie T specifically. It is so great to be in the Java Cafe this morning on this side. I am always honored to be here. What's going on? Rest is what's going on. Anthony and I have been doing a lot of traveling over the last few months, which is why you may have not seen us as much in the Java Cafe or have been in the cafe from other places in the country. So right now we are just focusing on rest and closing out the year. And right now, just in terms of the election, I would say I have moved from anger into the actionable grief. Like I'm still grieving, but I know that I cannot just sit in my grief and that there must be work done. But I'm still trying to figure out how I would like my grief to show up in the next 4 years and how that will, help frame my work and how I will show up in the work that I'll do over the next 4 years.
Absolutely. You got a little bit ahead of me because I was going to ask now versus what it was, closer to the election as far as your word that night and word now. And so, Anthony, same as you, same as Errin, rather. You know the process and the routine here. So greet the folks. Make sure you know the basis to cover as far as the Java folks know. So I'm gonna say, Errin, good good look there with the mothers. But Anthony, welcome. I'm honored to have you here, sir. And thank you and Errin for what both of you do, not only on a national, regional level, but locally as well, as far as community engagement, training, civic engagement, things like that. So welcome, brother.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and having us this morning. I'm excited for this conversation. Um, I would say like I'm still, as Errin said, like rest is like the big word, and recovery and realizing that rest and sleep are not the same thing. And so wanting to catch up on sleep, but also catch up on rest. That's kind of the priority right now, while also I would say like in terms of just life, turning the leaf. I think that um, I'm still, I would say, like where I am currently in terms of the election is still in a information gathering stage, and learning. I feel like for us to 25 days later say that we know exactly what we want, what we need to do, what we want to do for the next 4 years is both disingenuous and also incorrect. And so we need to continue to be in a information gathering phase, continuing to learn and continuing to listen to people. I think one of the things that from this election that the results show us is that the Democratic Party message is not in line with what the people holistically and nationally are feeling. And so I think that right now is a time to learn, to continue to gather information, and to use that information to inform what we're going to do next.
Absolutely. I want to I'm going to just state this and give deference. Erin's on here with two brothers, and so I'm going to give a lot of the time to her. Anthony is definitely our resident expert, and Errin in her own right mentioned that she's from Dorchester. And so Errin, if you could give us just about a minute, because this is not just, you all own your own business. You don't move the way you move as a social, if I have it right, a social impact boutique firm, if I have it right. This isn't something that you just woke up one day and quote unquote did. Can you give us just a minute of why you do this? And I'm going to come to Anthony with the same thing, because you heard from him getting ready to jump right in to some of the trends and data and whatnot. And so I want people to understand how and why I consider you all experts from your experience, but then also it's not anything new for both of you. Just give us a little bit of what you've done and why this is embedded in you in such the way it is.
I'm honestly shocked and honored that us three are taking up space and I get the most amount of time. That doesn't usually happen, so I'll take it. I'll take it. Uh, for me, my passion in politics really got started. I think this will make you two laugh, from debating, doing debate class, and you know, seeing the different issues and the both sides of a debate. And you know, my class was rooted in discussing issues that impacted our communities. And so seeing these issues, seeing both sides of it, seeing how it was being played out, seeing how our people have continuously, gotten the short end of the stick in our country, uh, it really made me feel like I wanted to do something about it. That class also required me to do an internship. And that internship happened to be with then City Councilwoman Ayanna Presley. And honestly, being able to work alongside her and see the work that she was doing for our community, and then finding out that, she wasn't even from Boston, she's from Chicago, and she was still pouring into our city in such an authentic way and had made it her home. I had felt as though like I could be just like her. And so basically just followed her path, really started from there, and, joined my local ward committee. I was the youngest member of my local ward. Works in the state house after that for Senator Sonia Chang Diaz, and then went off to also work in Congress for the Caucus on Black Women and Girls, and then went back to Congress again after working on Liz Miranda's campaign for her first race as state rep. Went back to Congress to work for Ayanna during her first term, which had been extremely impactful to me. And in between that, I also had the opportunity to work at Harvard Kennedy School Center for Public Leadership, which gave me an insight into more of the research and policy side. And then for an organization called Emerge Massachusetts, which helps elect Democratic women to run for office. And being able to see government and policy and organizing on all the different levels, on all the different fronts, I feel like really has ingrained in me the passion in this work, and that there is a role for everyone at any space and in so many different places. And it's really why I'm passionate. I just want to make a change for my community, and I can't see myself focusing on anything else because this is our day to day. These are the things that impact us. I do believe that no matter what your passion is in life, there's a way to bring this work into it. But this is my passion. This is what I want for myself, my future, my community. And so this is why I do the work that I do, because I wish for a better outcome for all of us.
I knew some things about you, Errin. But the CV that you just ran down, I won't say resume, the CV that you just ran down was crazy. And so much more respect. All right. Brother Anthony, give us your, and I just have to acknowledge, and I got to acknowledge both, and I'm not sure if Mother's on, but I see Pop's on, daughter-in-law, crab leg. Pops came out choosing violence this morning. I'm messing, and my mother as well is in the room. Anthony's dad is in, and so Anthony, what drives you in this space? You are the CEO. Errin, of course, is your life partner and wife and business partner as well. But the original model, when you went to her one day and say, "Yo, this thing about working a regular 40 for somebody," I'm thinking about this. And so it was your vision. Of course, she supports it. But what's your why, brother? Why is this so? Because to be very transparent, I was texting Errin the last couple of weeks out and just, hey, just checking on my boy. I see, thinking about him. This is something that's very passionate to you. So what's your why, brother?
Well, I guess my why starts with finding finding purpose post college. I would say that I've always been someone who cared about my community, and I think I learned that from my parents, um, watching them serve our community, whether that be in our church or in our local community at home. My parents were very heavily involved in our church, serving as my dad was a deacon, my mother and sister helped run the nursery. My dad ran the athletic department for the church, and all of that was voluntary, mostly unpaid work. And I learned the act of service early, and the importance of it early. But politically, I wouldn't say that I really was charged or engaged or involved until one of my line brothers, who you actually just highlighted his comment on the screen, Stephen Green, Reverend Stephen A. Green, actually, I mean, give him his respect. Gave me an opportunity post college.
Wait, hold on. This is D from Allen.
Yep.
God bless you, bitch. A bit. Well, I ain't going to promote you yet, but Anthony, yeah, we'll talk about him later. God bless you, sir. Thank you. An honor to see you in the room this morning. Please proceed, Anthony.
Well, I'm gonna promote something that he got going on a little bit later, so I'll wait for that. But he gave me an opportunity post college to come and join him at the NAACP in the Youth and College division. And in that role, I was working in the national office of the NAACP and had a chance to travel around the country and work with young people from different chapters across the country. And I would say one of the things that early on I noticed and really took away from the experience was the impression of young people being involved and wanting change. That there were 12, 13-year-olds who were involved in their local youth chapters, and there were college students who were running NAACP chapters on college campuses, and putting themselves voluntarily on the line to enact change in their community. And so for me, that's always been the thing that has continued to keep me motivated. I think a lot of the work that we do with the Davis system is geared towards giving back to younger people, whether that be training, as you mentioned earlier, doing civic engagement kind of speeches towards young people and showing them the importance of both their vote, but then also being involved in the civic engagement process, from going to school board meetings to volunteering in their local community outside of political endeavors. And so, for me, young people is what really keep me going. I think that young people are the people who are going to ultimately change our community and change our world. I still, I consider myself young. I'm 30 years old, but I think that, like, when I'm talking about younger people, I'm not even thinking about people who are of voting age. One of the other things that's really important for me, or that I think about that keeps me going, is um, I have five nieces and nephews. I have three nephews, 15, 13, and one, and 15, 13, and one. Yeah. And then I have two nieces who are uh 12 and 6. I'm probably messing up somebody's age, but I'm close. And so all of them 15 years old or younger. And so I think about the future of our country, and the future of education in our country, the future of the quality of life that they will have. And that keeps me going. And I would say one other thing, post my time at the NAACP, and even there, I spent a lot of time on the road traveling, and going to different communities and learning how to organize those communities, learning how to fit in those communities. Um, but I would say, like, I never felt home. I never felt at home in those times, and Boston has given me that, and so it's allowed me to stake a claim and find purpose here, while also still being able to have that national impact. And a lot of those times on the road, I was working late nights and early mornings and long days, 18-hour days sometimes. And I always thought, like, during those times, like, there's got to be more than this. There's got to be more than you know going to a campaign office for 18 hours of the day, going home to sleep, and then waking back up and going back there for all day, missing, birthdays, missing family trips, missing friend trips, missing all of these things that I missed out on over those years. There's got to be something more to that. And that's when kind of the idea of the Davis system came, because I was like, if I'm going to work 18-hour days for a campaign or for this organization, I may as well do this for my own self, for my own business, and be able to have our impact reach more than just one campaign or one organization at a time.
That's one of the things that is paramount, in our personal and business relationship formed at the same time. But that is one thing that resonates between you and I and Errin. Java with Jimmy and the Davis system is impact. Impact is it. And so I want to be sensitive to folks' time. I know folks are home warming up, probably their second last day to Thanksgiving, and making their turkey sandwiches and hash and all that other stuff. And so I want to jump in because there's a lot of sentiments from a lot of different people, from a lot of different perspectives, for a lot of different reasons. Some valid, and some just, come on, bro. Come on, sis, really. And so we're going to get ready to jump right in. I want to thank Anthony and Errin. They have prepared some information. I'm sure they'll do it, but we've seen some of these stats everywhere. There's some level of research, yes, but you'll recognize, these PDFs from other sources, and feel free to cite sources if you would like, because I know the professionals that both of them are. But we're going to jump right in. And you see the title there. It says, what went wrong? And so, Anthony, I'll be honest, we're doing this organically. And so we do have prepared quite a few slides. And Anthony, some we can just go through, some will intrigue me, some you and Errin may want to stop and say, hey, this stood out to me here. And so I will kind of progress. I know I asked earlier, I said, are we going to do the whole slide thing? But just let me know if they are, or if there's some certain ones. But certainly this first one here is a sentiment of a lot of people. Errin, if I could just ask you to give an initial, do you agree that this is a sentiment, no matter what these exit poll data trends are going to say? What percentage would you give to that statement, what went wrong, as far as the electorate?
Well, I'm like, there's a laundry list of things that actually went wrong. But for me, I think that the biggest point that I want to focus on is the lack of resources and money and focus that went into traditional organizing. I do believe that that is where real campaigns are won. I do think that they have, I believe it's in the slide deck, but it might be in another one where the campaign spent over $2 million on like $200 million on media alone. That did not go to Black and Brown consultants. That did not go to strategists. That did not go to getting organizers on the ground. That did not go to, literature and multilingual so that people can actually know what her messaging is. And I think that that is truly where their campaign fell. They lacked in grassroots, true organizing to the people who actually needed it. Yeah.
Here is what you were referring to, Errin, and as I said to you all,
Yes.
we're organic, but this is some of the information that they're going to share today. And so if you want, Anthony and or Errin, we can park right here. Anthony, if you want to jump in and maybe give your initial impression on this sort of statement right here. And then, do you agree with Errin from your perspective? Is this the foundation of some of what went wrong around the investments?
Yeah. I listen to a lot of political analysis, and I consider myself a political analyst. But I think one of the best things I've heard since the election is that the biggest winner was the white consultant class, and Angela Rye said this. And I think if you put those numbers back up, you can see, as Errin said, like 200 millions of dollars that went into media buys, and obviously like some of that money goes into the production and actually buying the media spots, but ultimately the return on investment just wasn't there. What we and we're gonna we'll talk about this, I'm sure, later or down the line, but what we saw was a drop off in voter turnout from 2020 to 24 from 2020 to 2024. And so for all of this hundreds of millions of dollars that went into media, and whether that be digital media, social media, or traditional media, there is no as Errin said, there is no substitute from the targeting that you can do from a door knock. And what we saw what we saw personally once we got on the ground in Pennsylvania was that there was a decision made, a very conscientious decision made to forego, targeting the communities that needed that door knock the most, in exchange for some of these dollars that went into the media. As somebody who does targeting and strategy, I can let you know that there is no way to say, I want to talk to this voter at this address, and make sure that your media or that your ad is going to get to that person at that address. But what you can do as somebody who knows how to cut turf and can do that for targeting as far as canvassing goes and door knocking goes, you can say, I want to knock every door in this street, or I want to make sure that we get to voters who are 65 years old and are Black and or Latino. And you can absolutely get to every single one of those voters through that type of targeting. And so, what we saw was that there was a decision made to forego traditional grassroots organizing in an effort to try and meet a lot of people at one time through media and through ads. And I, at the end of the day, I somewhat understand the decision because you only had 107 days to run the campaign. But at the same time, that's it's a lot of money, and it could have been used otherwise to make sure that we were actually talking to people on the door. And I think this slide is a really good slide.
And it's a good slide in transition, because one thing I like about you all, and Errin does this for both of you all, do it for me in a few spaces, but the balance, this is Harris did, made a miracle. Let's just state, and Errin, if you want to go over these, because I just want to also mention that we want to give special just acknowledgement into the fact that this Black woman, ascended to this space in this country, who post-election, and well, going on there. Well, since 2015. But anyway, Errin, would you like to please cite the miracle that Kamala did accomplish? A few of them.
Yeah, no, for sure. So 107 days, and there not only Kamala herself, but we as a people really came behind and rallied. I feel like we were very hopeless, and then we all, you see that $1 billion raised over time that came from us organizing and the work that we were able to do as well on her behalf. But it is a miracle. At the end of the day, we did have a Black woman that was nominated to be the president of the United States, and that is the first time that has ever happened. It is still historic. She still deserves to be honored in her own right. Her name will go down, right next to Shirley Chisholm, and I think that she is deserving, and Fannie Lou Hamer as well. Anthony, I remember you could clued over that. And so I want to ensure that we still give her due props, and for the other races that she also was able to support, and that was still successful. When we talk about like our two Black women who are now going off to the Senate, like we did still have wins this cycle, and I know that it feels like it's hard to focus on the wins because it feels like this glooming like threat that's coming for the next 4 years. But I think when we take the moment to try to find the silver lining and see the wins in the work that we do, we know that we actually still have a stronghold to fight against what's coming over the next 4 years.
Anthony, one thing I want to come to you with, and I put these up a couple of times because I want us to focus on kind of to what Errin mentioned there is what's next. What are we going to do? Moving beyond grief to now actionable grief, I believe is your term in the introduction, Errin. But let's go and look at some of these numbers. The exit polls, folks like us, we kind of like this stuff.
Nerd out on this type of stuff.
Yeah, bro, it just because you sit and let's just name years of being around this and whatnot. There's an acumen. You can kind of look at stuff and come away with presumed from previous experience, make some good presumptions and analysis. I do consider you to be a political analyst. And so let's get ready to go in and look at these numbers right here. I think I want to go back to what you had started with at first. One was about, I think, the drop off, if this is right, in reference to exit polls in 2024 versus what we saw in 2020.
Yeah,
I really wish Anthony had that.
Yes,
that's what he needs right now. This is his moment. This is what he actually would fully nerd out. He just needs the full screen, like that Steve from.
I promise. Look. Oh, you know what? We're gonna need that in 25 in November. It may be
we'll have some fun in November with that. Yeah,
maybe September because folks might try to run independent or whatever. So Anthony, sir, and Errin, jump in here as well on any observation. And so Anthony, what are we looking at here? First of all, give a little context to exit polls. I want to do a little bit of education here and here and there when we can. First of all, a couple of term definitions. Anthony said cut turf. What that is, I'll give a quick synopsis. You can go to some things like Vote Builder, Act Blue, and campaigns and electeds have the ability to get voter information. What Anthony said is true about there's a term you may identify as getting your ones and your twos. Ones are definitely coming out and voting for your candidate. Two, but if you get them a few more times, you can turn them into a one. And that's where your focus is on voter turnout. And so, Anthony, what are these numbers of saying to you, and give a little context about why we pay attention, and to our guy who is from Boston, we will just name John King, why we pay attention, and the new guy, the younger one on CNN now with all the energy. Why we pay attention to this and the exit polls? What do they do?
Yeah, so exit polls give us a snapshot of what the electorate look like nationwide. Obviously, this isn't necessarily a poll of every single voter, but it does give us an overall look at what the electorate, both the makeup of the electorate, and so this screen that we have up now shows you that of the people who voted, that 71% of the people who voted were white. 12% of the people who voted were Hispanic and Latino. And I skip Black intentionally there because I think it's important to note that the Hispanic and Latino share of the vote was larger than the Black share of the vote. If you see here, they were at 12%, Black folks were at 11%. And I think that goes actually to the two slides before this one. Actually, if we can go two up.
Two up ahead or?
Yep, this one right here.
Okay, yes, sir.
So Latino folks outperformed Black folks in this election in terms of turnout and turning out in actually raw votes. And you can see that Latino men voted for Donald Trump at 55%. That is one of the most damning statistics coming out of this election because Latino men voted for Donald Trump at around 25% in 2020. So they more than doubled their margin, their share of the vote with Latino men. That's almost large enough to shift the entire electorate. And Latino women were around 38% for Trump. So obviously still voted for Kamala Harris in a larger number. But I think this statistic, and then obviously you look at Black men, which was, the big story about us as Black men turning out to vote for Kamala Harris. And obviously we were still the second largest voting bloc for Kamala Harris and the Democrats by share to Black women. But 21% of Black men did vote for Donald Trump.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I want to. I was angry. So now we're going to talk about like where I was coming up on November 6th. On November 6th, I was angry and pissed off at, I would say, Latino men and Asian men. But as I've taken the time to collect more information and listen, I'm realizing that Kamala Harris is paying for the failures of the Democratic Party. She unfortunately got thrown on the stake, in my opinion, and her whole political career got thwarted as a result of her having to almost take this L for the Democrats. Whether it was her or Joe Biden, Democrats were going to lose this election. And I think it's messed up that they made this Black woman take. Now I'm talking as just Anthony and not political analyst.
Yes, sir.
I think it's messed up that they made this Black woman take the fall for their inadequacies over the last 4 years. And the reason why I say that those numbers reflect that inadequacy is that Democrats' messaging to Black men and furthermore to Latino men and to Asian men is not getting through. This messaging around racism and xenophobia and transphobia and Donald Trump being a sexist, all of these things, while true, are not permeating through to people who care about everyday issues. Why are my groceries higher? Why is my gas higher? Can I afford to send my kids to school? Can I afford to make it to tomorrow? And so the party needs to now look at these numbers and say, and that's why I say we need to be in the listening phase right now. What is it that we miss, and what are the issues that we are missing talking about when it comes to, working class? I don't even think at this point, like we talked about these numbers through a racial lens, but I think at this point we need to stop talking about politics from race. We need to talk about economics and working in the working class versus the middle class and the upper class, because for whatever reason, although Donald Trump lives and is for the upper class, his messaging is getting through to uneducated, poor, primarily white people. And that's why they are all, now I'm tying a whole bunch of things, but that's also why the Department of Education is under attack as well, because the more that they can keep us uneducated, the more that they will continue to run the electorate. And there is a slide here that shows education statistics as well. I'll find it for you if you want to.
Yeah, we're going to get into it because I want to come back to this, but Errin, Anthony early on in this part of the commentary reference to the fact of a Black woman. There was this thing early on, like she announced on Sunday. If she announced at 12 o'clock, y'all remember I had a reel up at like 12:15. Y'all don't mess this up. Time for the Black woman. You want something fixed, give it to the Black woman. Can I just ask you, as a Black woman, sis, I'm not going to give no context. As a Black woman, I
was about to swear, and then I was like, "Oh wait!"
we can have a little bit.
I literally had like a full like, "Oh wait, no, can't do it." This is not after dark. I am tired. As a Black woman, I am tired. We know that the Black woman is the backbone to our democracy. To every issue that we have fought, we Black women have been the cornerstone of it. But I do think that at this point we're just tired. Like, my first feelings coming out of the election was feeling like, what's the point? Because no matter how much I fight, in the work that I do, it feels like our community, our country is just against us. And so I personally believe that when we look at policy, if we look at how that policy affects Black women, every other group that is also disenfranchised will become better if we look at how it's impacting the Black woman of itself. But the rest of the country doesn't see it that way. And ultimately, we are putting out a lot, and as Anthony said, sacrificing our careers for it to not pan out in the way that we want or ever feeling truly prioritized. And to me, it's actually kind of crazy how we still don't feel prioritized when I do feel like we have been, in a way. Let me be clear on what I'm saying. I do feel like money and resources over the last few years, past this last 4 years, really since like Obama administration time, has really been pouring into the Black women, into our education, into Black women mental health, into providing more groups and resources for young Black girls. I do believe that we've been getting a lot of time, money, and effort poured into the aspect of Black women. Still not to the level in which we need, but a lot more attention. And I think that Black men continue to be and have never been at the center point of the conversation. And this election cycle, they attempted to do that, but they attempted too late and did it the wrong way and fell short of really meeting the Black man where he's at. And for the Black men who are leading in their household to not be a part of the conversation, to not be able to be spoken to. I was telling Anthony, I feel like it was like the last 3 days of the election, I feel like the campaign switched to just talking to dads. I'm like, where did this dad messaging come from? I was like, they should have started this 107 days ago. Like they've been trying to talk to the fathers, and I think that we need to spend time really listening. Right now, we do not need to be rebuilding the party. I feel like the party is going to be doing a lot of reactionary things, but I really do need to be spending time listening to people. And as Anthony said, looking at what our definitions of working class, middle class is, because I don't believe that the Democratic Party's definition is currently up to date, or they actually know what a working class person looks like in 2024.
Anthony, let me ask you why the Black woman, the Black woman is a priority and we're giving as much deference as we can to Errin here. I also say for anybody that whatever, Erin's not saying that she's speaking for all Black women. She's talking about her perspective. She's using I statements. I just felt the unction to say that. Maybe I just discerned something from the audience. So Anthony, I have to give you space as well as a Black man, because we were the number one targeted demographic of misinformation. We were us, and I just thought about this, and probably white men too, for a different, maybe same goal, but in a different way. But we were the ones that were targeted with misinformation. I'm just going to go ahead and say again, my opinion. I've been flabbergasted by social media support that I see. Black folks, period, Latino folks. And now, and we're going to have to be careful because some of us, I'll say me, I have a tendency to be a little bit petty. Oh, we're seeing the error of their ways now. And there is a sentiment, Errin, I'm going to come back to you about that darn picture. Because there's a sentiment about that picture of the sisters sitting up on the ledge while the city's burning. Well, we're going to come to that a little bit too. And so, Anthony, let me get to the point. As a Black man, sir, number one demographic. To some extent, Errin, thank you as a Black woman, as y'all always do, cover us, name us, encourage us, or whatever. Not whatever, but in everything. Or additionally, we're right behind them, but we're not considered as a targeted demographic until you need the vote. And even in that, you, sir, can say better than me. You referenced the decades that, she did it. They wanted her to do in 107 days what the party should have been doing, sir.
At least for 4 years, at least for the last 4 years, not for decades.
Yes, sir. And if you want to refer to any slide here, let me know and I got you.
No, so this is actually like one of, for me, like the biggest, I would say, takeaways personally from this election is that, Andrew Gillum said it, but I agree. He said that straight Black men do not have a home in the Democratic Party. But for me as a Black man, I don't think that I don't even think that I don't think that we can just pigeonhole it to straight Black men. I think that as a whole, the Democratic Party has failed at giving us examples of Black men within the Democratic Party. And when I say that, I think of when I think of examples, I think of also real life or people who are relatable in terms of examples. When you think about some of the electeds, the Black women electeds, or even women of color electeds, like our Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, like Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, like even Ketanji Brown Jackson, who's not an elected. Go ahead.
Hold on, make that note. We're going to go back to Ketanji. You mentioned AOC. Seen social media the last 24 hours?
Yeah, they want her to run for president.
We can go back to that. Proceed, sir.
But I think that Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, Congresswoman Tlaib, the list can continue to go on. Congresswoman Underwood. It's like this whole wave of they're not all young, but youngish Black women of color who are inspirational for younger women, who give younger women something to both aspire towards or to relate to. Even if it's like, I don't care about politics, it's like people who never voted or who don't care about voting may listen to AOC go live or may listen to AP go live because of their just relatability, their ability to talk about politics in a real life aspect and their lived experiences as individuals as well. Black men do not have that in the Democratic Party at all. When I think about Black men, like our Democratic Party leaders or like Black men in the Democratic Party, I think about Jim Clyburn, who is old, very extremely powerful, very he wields his power in a very good way, but not relatable. Cory Booker, not relatable necessarily. And then you have Reverend Warnock, a pastor from the South, older Black man. Again, for my generation of black men, he's not necessarily relatable. And so we don't have that list, and the list can continue to go on of women of color who are inspirational and inspiring, who give Black women a home in this party. And so Black men are looking for, we need that. And that's why also the messaging is off. It's not that these Black men don't exist. We have Representative Maxwell Frost in Florida. We have Jamal Bowman.
I was about to ask you to give some examples. Mayor in Baltimore, governor in Maryland, like
and that's
a couple of those names.
And that's part of the problem, is that a lot of those examples of Black men are on the local level. I can go to my home state of Maryland and, our governor, the governor Wes Moore, the mayor of Baltimore, Brandon Scott. There are young Black men who are proud Democrats who are taking up the mantle, but a lot of that is on the local level. And so the national party both isn't promoting those people. And if they are, they damn sure aren't listening to them. And that's the problem, is that these younger Black men who would be influential, who are probably talking to other young Black men, um, their voices aren't being uplifted within the party. Their presence isn't being uplifted. So we know that their strategy and their mind isn't being uplifted behind the scenes, and that's the biggest issue I would say for Black men with the Democratic Party right now is that they're not speaking to our issues. They don't have examples of real life people who have lived the experience of Black men, and ultimately, um, we don't feel inspired. I mean, I I personally, um, I one of the things I always like to say is that I'm in a fraternity. I have a line of 25 brothers.
Please just go ahead and name them. Let's give them
POK,
deference.
my
Hey,
brothers.
hold on. Say this so we can clip it out properly.
You
Who?
know, shout out to 25 to life. POK. We just celebrated spring 14. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. Um, I have 24, so that's 24 line brothers. I have a organization that I started in college. We still have a group chat. We talk in pretty much every day. That's another 10 brothers. And then I have my friend group that I grew up from in high school. That's another 10 brothers. So on average, I'm in conversation with roughly 40 Black men at the drop of any time, any day. I can drop in a group chat and get a pulse for 40 Black men who live in Georgia, North Carolina, Texas, um, all over the country. And so their backgrounds, their lived experiences all vary as well. And so while we have something in common, we don't always agree politically for sure. And in my opinion, I feel like I have a really good insight into the Black male kind of psyche as it comes to politics. And that's the sentiments as a whole is that the Democratic Party is not speaking to our issues, and they're also not promoting candidates that are inspiring Black men to turn out.
Errin, can I ask you, do you believe when it comes to the Black woman that there are the same issues? Though the numbers and all that, Michelle, Kamala, Congresswoman Presley, AP, Sister Omar, the new, Jesus, Crockett, and the new sister that's come in, that she's got a couple of clips out here on social media. I can't remember her name. Y'all better than me. Do you feel it's the same for women, despite the numbers that are crazy? Do you feel your voice is heard? And wherever both of you going forward are comfortable saying overall, national, if we want to talk a little bit state level too, feel free.
No, I don't feel like Black women's voices are heard. I feel like we're pandered to more than Black men, but none of us are being heard. I think that, speaking to you talked about the photo, like the photo is we're pulling up all these seats to this table, but the table ain't changing. We're not getting prioritized. And even when we do feel like we have taken steps forward, there's sometimes steps that keep pulling us back. So I do agree with Anthony's sentiments, but I think it also shows up a little bit differently. I think that we need to Black men and Black women have their own plights, and our plights are different. But we do have things that overlap and can join us together. And I think that we need to focus more on those things because we have been focusing on the things that make our journeys different. But at the end of the day, we are the people that are supporting each other. And if we don't respect each other's individual journeys and support each other collectively, we won't be able to move forward.
I want to say, just in case folks did not know to which photo we were referring, this is the one here. And let me, Errin, what does this mean to you?
This photo for me, for once, it means that Black women are trying to or attempting to embrace the power of rest and healing and self-preservation, something that I don't think that has ever been we've ever even had the ability to be able to take. And just acknowledging the fact that this is something that all Black women may want right now, but not something that we all may have access to. Not all of us can take the time and the space to have the self-preservation and take the rest that we need. But ultimately, for me, I talked earlier about like actionable grief. I call it actionable grief because I cannot allow my grief to consume me in a way that it then paralyzes me, because that's exactly what they want. They want Black women to stay on the sidelines for the next 4 years to not try to fight back against these initiatives. Project 2025 is real. It's here. It's about to be implemented. It's happening. And like they want us to feel like we're on the sidelines, that we're just minding our business and letting the country burn so that they can implement what they need. And we will be in a worse situation than we are. I have to have actionable grief because as somebody who is invested in this work and, tries to work every day to make our outcomes better. For me, I think about all of the Black women who can't rest and who don't have that self preservation and who will die because we're choosing to let the country burn. And for those Black women, I can't just sit on the sidelines and let our country burn. I think that I am very fortunate and lucky to be in a space where I can get some rest. And I'm taking my rest until December 31st. And then starting January 1st, we're hitting the ground of running. It's, we need to be, I'm focusing on restaurant strategy right now so that I can just hit the ground running as soon as the new year starts and knowing the work that needs to be done over the next 4 years.
Errin, thank you. And one, I just going to name it. Asia is in here and she said, preach, and Kelly's in love with what they're saying. I just wanted to name Anthony, of course, presumably. This is a Black owned business. Folks are referring and asking from where you got your shirt. And so Pops was so gracious to put Pops, you better do it with the Pops was on Instagram and then I didn't see him until late. He popped over here to Facebook. And so I refer to Pops, you all. This is, this is Junior.
I'm about to say, that's me. I dropped the link. Yeah, for sure.
Pops, you still doing it. Good to see you in the room here and over on Instagram. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that because people are asking. And so Errin, I want to thank you because it at the end of the day, Anthony, I love what you said. Black period. We have our subsets. We have our sub marginalizations from LGBTQ to women to, single fathers to, wrongful convictions to, let me say wrongful convictions of men and women. The men get a lot of attention, but the women don't, not to get too far off. And Anthony, you can feel free to either text or private chat and pull us in or direct me to where we want to go because you've put so much work into the numbers. But I think it's also important, some of the anecdotal context to which we're talking about today, it's not just us that's feeling it. And everybody, to Errin's point, everybody may not have the ability to rest and relax. Everybody may not have a space in which they can learn and have these conversations about the sentiments since November 5th. And so, Anthony, I'll ask you to transition us to what was some of the things that were most surprising around the data and the numbers, and feel free to refer, or if you were going to refer me to another slide, from some back convo, let me know where to go.
No, so I think that if when you get a chance, if we can go to slide 9, I think that can pick up one of the things that we were talking about. But while you pull that up, I think okay, so no, we can talk through this first.
I'm getting better, brother. I'm getting better.
That was quick. That was quick. So this goes back to the point we were making earlier about education around turnout and the idea of, people are wondering why they're getting rid of the Department of Education, or why they put in a WWE star over the public Department of Education. Is because they plan on getting rid of it. And why do they want to get rid of it? Because as you see here in these numbers, the largest block of people by education status that turned out was white non-college graduates. 39% of the overall people who voted were white non-college graduates. And of that 39%, 66% of those people voted for Donald Trump. Every other education demographic was at least remotely close. The white non-college graduates was a 34% difference in the electorate. You see your white college graduates, 52% of white college graduates, which was 33% of the electorate, voted for Kamala Harris and Democrats. Obviously non-white college graduates, people who are people of color who graduated from college, voted for her 65%. And even people who are people of color who didn't go to college, voted for her at 64%. So every other every other education demographic voted for Vice President Harris, but white non-college graduates. And so that's why Project 2025 is so intricate because this education piece has been happening. We see these we have an opportunity to work in places like Oklahoma and West Virginia and Mississippi and Alabama, and you see this there's a statistic that I can find it. I'm gonna send it to you, Jimmy, but essentially there is a tie and it coincides with education levels and how you vote. And
Mhm.
essentially, like Massachusetts is number one in our country for education. Massachusetts was one of, if not the number one state that voted for Vice President Harris by percentage. Um, Whereas compared to Oklahoma, which is, I believe, last in the country um, in education, they also voted for Donald Trump. Every county in Oklahoma, but I believe one county in Oklahoma voted for Donald Trump. And so there is a connection between education and who you vote for. And there's a reason why in Oklahoma and in Mississippi and in Alabama, where you see these laws around education, around the separation of church and school, and around book bans, more importantly, around what can be taught in the curriculum. All of these things are happening to keep that control, that college graduate control of the electorate. And for whatever reason, those people, you know, I think one of the things that's most telling is that demographic of people is the largest turnout of people. Why are white non-college graduates, for whatever reason, getting to the polls over every other demographic of people? Go ahead.
I got two proposals for you.
Go ahead.
And again, to keep our balance, we'll hear from Errin, and then anything she may miss, you come in and seal up. One, you talked about what we call, here's another term for you all. When we talk about field, interesting topic or interesting term in the context of what we're talking field. Field basically means turf, the same thing when you're cutting up turf in the field, getting those ones. I would propose that they were very active in field and turning out the ones on the low. I forgot what the other one was. Errin, your response there.
White people are losing their majority. That's why they turned out.
Well, I mean,
that's them. Like they turning out because they're not trying to lose their power. They're trying to keep their majority. And I think, white men who are poor are the most threatened by that. They're the most threatened by this idea of like losing their power and losing their status in America. And I think that like literally seeing Biden give up power and then give it up to a black woman at that, I think that pushed them even further. I think many of them was already like invigorated because they didn't feel as though Biden deserved to be president. They felt like the election was stolen. And then seeing a white man give up power to a black woman was just unthinkable. And they're like, well, we ain't going to allow this. Like, that's not going to be our truth. And I think that's why they showed up the way that they did, because they overperformed to ensure that we can't. And that's why black women feel the way that we do.
Anthony, did she miss?
Oh, I just want to say, I'm thankful for my black husband. And my black love. That's what I'm gonna say.
Listen, I know that's right. Anthony, next. What?
So next, no, because I do have, two other things I really wanted to share, and then I do want to talk about the real. I know we're over. I knew this was going to at least be an hour and a half.
We're good. I said next. Not to move on. Next in reference to any response that Errin said, because I didn't even think from that perspective about the frailty, the browning of America.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, one of the things that I heard someone say, I can't remember exactly who it was, but when we talk about their Republicans, their job is really easy because their job is they have a common goal, a united goal, which Errin just articulated, is retaining their power, retaining white supremacy. even if you're not a racist, even if you're not someone who quote unquote sees themselves as a white supremacist or votes based on Donald Trump's, racial beliefs and all of his other beliefs, you also are not saying that that's a deal breaker for you, because what you stand to gain and how you stand to benefit is a lot more than what you stand to lose on the other side. And I think that's what we see reflected in these numbers, even for, how we keep coming back to white women. It's like white women stand to, and their husbands stand to, and their households stand to gain a lot more from him being president than potentially than they do if Vice President Harris, in their mind, because this is also messaging. This is also messaging because this is where the Republicans and Donald Trump has somehow gotten this right, in that their messaging to people is that the Democratic Party is not, they're going to take something away from you. They're the reason why your inflation is happening. They're the reason why your bills cost as much. They're focused on LGBTQ rights, and they are focused on how you're going to provide for your family. And it's all this messaging that they have gotten through to people, especially these these white folks, that lets them know that somehow puts this fear, they fear monger and let them know, gives them this idea that, immigrants are coming in and committing all these crimes. They're taking your jobs. It's all of these things that is propaganda, but it all goes back to the same root of, you are losing your power. White people, wake up, you're losing your power. And that's why they turn out in these numbers. That's why they are able to unite and move, because it's easy for them. It's that message. Everything is rooted in that message. Whereas for us, the Democratic Party, we want to build this big tent, and we also need to, be inclusive of all these different, identities that make up the Democratic Party, that we don't know what we need to be saying. And so we're trying to talk to everybody at one time, and we're failing because we don't have that one united message to rally everyone around.
There's so much here. And if you all notice, I'm going to be proud of myself that I have done less commentary in this space. I'm proud of myself because y'all know I got a lot to say. But Errin, I just got to acknowledge and thank you, because I wasn't even asking in sort of that context. I was asking more from a strategy, standpoint around field. But no matter what the undercurrent of what you said informs what Anthony said about the strategy and the tech and the field and the cutting of turf. The intensity of how they did that got all their ones out. I just got to pause real quick. Y'all can shake your head or whatever. I said, I think on election night or post or whatever, I said, I will not be surprised. And there's a little, social media buzz around it and Starlink and all that. But I will not be surprised that if a decade from now, we find out that some of those numbers that, like, in every, I don't know, Anthony, what the number is, but I think it's over 70% county had this Republican uptick in turnout. I'm not a conspiracy theorist at all. But Melania Trump, I'm going to leave that right there. Anthony, Errin, anything else on this point you want to say? And Anthony, if you do say it, and then Errin will close out this point, and Anthony, you can move us on to where we need to go.
Yeah, I was just commenting on something that Anthony has said prior about, continuing on, like, with the white people losing their footing. I think they were also able to do this when we look at smaller things like the census and how we just don't participate in those things. And we think about redistricting, these maps, and how they were able to gain the footing in all of these other districts. When we look at Congress and, like, at state levels, is because they're paying attention to those things and they're redistricting it in their favor. But ultimately, white people are showing out the way that they're showing out because they see themselves losing power, and Black people continue to stay home because we feel like we never have power, and so there's no point of showing up. But if we never had power, and if we don't have power, and if nothing we do will matter, then why are they trying so hard to continue to silence us and keep us at home? And I think that's what I would like our people to think about over the next 4 years. I think we have to do better about, as the people involved, about really showing how these policies affect the day-to-day lives of our people and seeing the real impact, because majority of the people said that they voted for Trump because of the economy. And I bet you if I walk down, Blue Hill Ave right now, not one person can actually explain to me what the economy means. But like but yet that's our reasoning for it. And so I think we need to do better about voter education. We need to do better about policy education, and then we just need to be intentional about investment in our organizers and helping people realize that we're all organizers. This isn't something that's like special to Anthony or I because we had these long, extensive resumes. Like everyone is an organizer. There are some basic building blocks to, getting your community together around an issue, and we can teach you that at the data system.
I know that's right. I want to be Errin, thank you again. Leading. That's what y'all do. Because I do want to, Anthony, if there are any significant points we need to make around the data, anything that you really wanted to make sure we focused on today. And at the end of that, the major thing I think we want to focus on is what's next. What's next? Like, what do we do? We've already touched on some things. I'm going to ask something about local, because we know what all politics are local. And Anthony.
So I think one of the things that I want to make sure everybody here leaves with is that the failure of this election does not lay at Vice President Harris. I truly believe that regardless of who the Democratic candidate was, there's maybe a very short list that starts with Jesus Christ, that the Democratic Party was likely losing. And the reason why I say that is that, so this is the statistic I want everybody to keep in the next 4 years. This is the one that you run with, because this is what matters. This is if you want to know what's next, this is what we can do. So and this is,
I just wanted to put that up because
I think this is great to show while I talk about this, because so the statistic that I want everybody to leave with is that of all of the registered voters in our country, of people who are registered and can cast a vote, Donald Trump got 32% of those people's vote. Kamala Harris got 30% of those people's vote. So of all of the people who can possibly vote in our country, so this is where we keep talking about a turnout issue. This statistic illuminates the turnout issue. Of all possible voters, Donald Trump got 32%, Kamala Harris got 30%, which means in total, they only 62% of possible people in this country who casted a vote. Which means that 37% of registered voters did not vote. So take that. Someone said this earlier, and I love this. The couch would have won both the electoral and popular vote.
Break that down.
37%. The couch, meaning staying at home, sitting on your couch. More people voted or decided to stay at home than voted for either side of either candidate. 32% of people voted for Donald Trump, 30% of people in this country voted for Kamala Harris, and 37% of people decided to stay home on their couch. And that 37%, whether that was an independent candidate, whether that was Boo Boo the Fool, could have won both the electoral and popular vote. So all the people who decided not to vote, who were registered to vote, could have won the electoral and popular vote. So our marching orders is to cut into that 37%, make sure that 37% is not sitting at home on the couch in 4 years, but that we're also making sure that those people are showing up. For us in Boston, we have an election next year in 2025. We will have an election in 2026 for midterms. We will have an election in 2027 for our municipal elections again. And we will have an election in 28 for our congressional leaders, our president again. And so Massachusetts, our marching orders are very simple. We have elections every single year that we can measure ourselves by and say, are we turning out voters? Maybe your state is not the exact same way, because I know we have people listening from all over the country. But your goal is to, whether it be in the midterms in 2026 in your state, make sure that you are taking someone who you know maybe has never voted, who you know you never asked about voting, and make sure that they are getting to the polls. Right now is not is not it's not too early. It's not too early. It's not too early to be talking to people about making a plan for 2026. Because let me let you know, that's what the Republicans are doing. That's what they've been doing. They talk to their people year round. They're engaging them year round. They're talking to them and making sure that they are making a plan to vote year round. So that's how they're beating us. We're not outnumbered, we're out organized, as Malcolm X said. And I think that that's the crux of everything, is that we have the numbers. We just don't have the organization, and they've been doing it for generations and decades. And that's why Project 2025 is Project 2025, because it's been happening since 1619. And so that's the crux of everything, is that we need to get organized and we need to get our people out. I'm gonna transition to what was happening on the ground in Pennsylvania, because that also, it points to why we weren't turning out our people. And I want Errin to chime in, because I think she played a very pivotal role in addressing one of the biggest issues, which was a lack of resources that were coming into the state. And I think I shared a tweet. You know, we're getting off of X slowly but surely. But I shared a tweet with Jimmy and
Soon as
Errin.
that contract is over, Errin, we getting off of Twitter.
I shared a tweet with Errin and Jimmy earlier from the Florida state director for the Biden Harris campaign, which became the Harris campaign. And she talks about the fact that, from basic resources to tables to chairs to printing paper to actually being able to put on events in their state in Florida, they had to rely on volunteers or people in the community to donate those things to the campaign. Not the campaign that raised $1 billion wasn't getting resources to Florida. Obviously a state that we not maybe are not going to win, maybe we don't see as competitive, but a $1 billion campaign, Florida, which is a huge state, has a lot of electoral votes, got $4 million of the $1 billion that was raised by this campaign. And that goes to staff, that goes to offices, that goes into a lot of operational things. It doesn't actually go into the work that needs to be done to actually organize the communities. And so what we've seen is that was not just happening in Florida, that was happening in swing states across the country. And you know, Errin, I'll let you chime in with what was happening.
Come on, Errin. And I just have one statement and one question. For folks that want to see the tweet to which Anthony is referring, it's actually a thread, and so it is hyperlinked after the show. Y'all can go back to the comments and check out that link. The other question I have for Anthony is, are you talking on a macro level, or did Errin need to lean into somebody down there in Pennsylvania and talk with them?
Oh no, I lent in on a few people in Pennsylvania for sure. But I think
you said lent in.
So as y'all know, I do a lot of operational work. The work that I did during our time in Pennsylvania really was trying to operationalize multiple offices. There was about 4 offices that I spent my time doing direct fundraising. I want to thank a lot of people on this call, and I know some of just our community as a whole here in Massachusetts, because a lot of you were the ones that donated. And the Davis system was able to raise over $3,000 just to feed people and get the resources and supplies needed for people in Pennsylvania, mostly raised from Massachusetts and Maryland and DC, not even from people within Pennsylvania. But then I also spent time, walking around the neighborhood, reaching out to different restaurants, trying to figure out who would donate based on like the local framework, who was supportive. And every office needed things from food to tables to printers to ink all throughout that entire week. And just all of that was paid for by money we were able to fundraise. And so again, not anything a part of that 1 billion, completely separate from that. And there's so many times where, volunteers would leave and they'd be like, well, if you guys aren't going to feed us, I'm starving, like I'm going to head out. Those are doors that won't be knocked. Those are phone calls that won't be made. And so it seems like a really small thing of like, you need your collecting money just to feed people, but feeding people is what keeps people in the doors. And I think when it came down to election day, it's last minute money of like, is there a party? Can we have money for a party for this? Can we do money for that? And all of these resources was never truly given to the people who really need it. And I think a larger piece to show it is that even when resources was given, I don't believe that they were allocated in the way that they should have been, because the communities who needed it the most weren't getting the resources that they needed. And to make one's point specifically, in the Airbnb, which we were staying in, we were leaving one day and a whole box of, literally entire box of like Kamala Harris signs just sitting outside, full box, unopened, just outside, sitting on the floor on the street.
To someone like, oh God, this is why y'all was in my spirit while y'all was in Pennsylvania, because to you two, that, remember,
I literally was like, that's like $500 just sitting right there, just literally.
Remember on the Brady, I don't know if y'all remember, but there's an episode on the Brady Bunch when Jan or somebody or Peter, one of them, gets the first kiss and the fireworks go off. Kind of unrelated, but I know when you saw that, I won't say fireworks. Well, a few things probably went off, but it just shows your acumen around utilization of resources. I just want to give a shout out because I saw the post, wasn't able to do much, but I saw the post where y'all were asking folks, would you donate gift cards and whatnot? And Errin, you were straight hustler. So you down in Pennsylvania, probably never been to that area, and you was going around to the restaurants, curating food and support.
Cam was literally, he just gotta walk around with confidence, like you just there was able to collect some donations as well. And I think overall it just speaks to the collective effort of everyone wanting to feel as though they can participate. So again, just want to say thank you to our people who donated. And I was doing multiple text messages.
and also prayed, because I know folks up here was covering y'all and praying, including Mom and Pops Davis as well. Anthony, we got some level of the marching orders to which Asia referred. We got a whole lot of context as to why and where we need to go. There's 2025. Which we probably need to do a whole nother show, because for me, and again, this is my observation, and haven't really articulated this publicly, I'm going to do as best as I can. All politics are local. There is, as Errin pointed to, didn't say it like this, but the frailty of white men. Everybody knows that the demographic of the most presumed, rumored person that may run in 25, the demographic is a white male. I asked the mayor this week, I got to get that clip out there, how she felt about the symbolism of her being the first elected mayor. Kim Janey was the first woman of color mayor, but first elected woman of color, Asian, who speaks fluent Spanish. Who, if you, Anthony and Errin, agree, let me know. When you talk about this commitment to the Black community, one of the paramount things is it's economic mobility and come up, for lack of better words. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to simply say Shagun stats are irrefutable.
Mm-hmm. Numbers don't lie.
Numbers don't lie. Now, I'm going to give balance. Might get in a little trouble. On the local level, I say all politics are local. Are there some that can't blatantly feel, experience, apply for, take advantage of some of that data to which Shagun is maneuvering, because it's around small businesses and things like that. And if you don't have a small business, maybe you haven't felt the direct impact. My point here is saying that we need to pay attention to local politics, and I've been saying this for years. Because all politics are local, and there is a sentiment right here in this city.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Errin, I don't know if that was intentional, but we got this internal joke that when you hear Anthony do, something's about to come out. I heard it. There's a sentiment right here where folks are organizing purposely because of the frailty of white men. And so as we get ready for 26, important, we got to get ready for 25.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't need a new administration locally when you were adjusting to a new national administration. You can't be getting your footing while also adjusting to what's to come. That's my commentary. Again, I said from the beginning that there's some stuff that may be said this evening or today that aren't necessarily the opinions of the Davis. Errin, you both smiling.
I don't disagree with anything you said. So I'm like, I agree, but I feel like, to your point, like, well, I want to like almost take one step back and say,
Go
like,
ahead, sir.
address your point about all politics being local, because I think that especially for folks like us in Massachusetts and people who are in blue states like Maryland, where I'm from, there can be this sense of comfortability and complacency and almost like we're good, um, and I think that this is an opportunity for those of us in those predicaments. I don't think our job is to move to a swing state so that we can be one more voter, or to put all of our time into organizing in swing states from Massachusetts. I think that we can do that, but I think that it's also a chance to look at our local. It's also a chance to look at our local politics, to your point, and look at, for us in these blue states, looking at our state parties, and really taking a chance to analyze, how much of how much is our state party maybe reflective of our national Democratic Party. And I say that in, you know, if you are involved in your state party, do you see Black people represented? Do you see people of color represented in both the leadership of your state party, but then also in the efforts of your state party? I think that here in Massachusetts, we always talk about um, the gateway cities as places that are, communities that are predominantly people of color, usually lower income. And these are also the places that tend to have the lowest voter turnout. Sounds very similar to the national Democratic Party when you think about places like Mississippi and Alabama, who are, states with overwhelmingly, and compared to other states, people of color, maybe lower income, maybe lower education. And we see how disenfranchised those people have been by the Democratic Party from a lack of resources, from a lack of investment, from a lack of training. And so, is your state party resembling the faults of the National Democratic Party? And if so, maybe you need to attack your state party. I think that that's one piece of local politics, especially for those of us in blue states, that we can think about right now. It's an actionable step that we can be more involved, even if it's not you don't have to take over your Democratic Party on your state level, but be more involved. Make sure that there's more people of color represented in leadership, and maybe you do have to take it over. So
I didn't
I
say
think that,
anything.
yeah, I think that it's something that we need to look at in terms of local politics. I think, to your point about here in Boston, um, white male fragility is such a delicate um uh well, not delicate, but yeah, they're fragile. They're extremely fragile. And I think that in our city, the beauty of the city of Boston. I heard the so the Republican chair of the Massachusetts Republican Party, the chair of the Massachusetts Republican Party, was on Fox News the other day. I like to watch Fox News
I
every
do
once in
too.
a
Every
while.
once in a while, because you got to
Yeah,
know
every
the
once
other
in a while,
side.
you gotta know what they talk
That's
about.
strategy.
And I thought it was amazing that the Massachusetts Democratic Party, Massachusetts Republican Party chair was on, and she was talking about the fact that Massachusetts was the second state in terms of their gains for Trump, the second largest in gains for Trump. In the city of Boston, however, we voted for Vice President Harris at around 73%. And
That
so
means that what?
that our
20
city is not beholden to white male fragility. I think our city is not responding to white male fragility. And while our state, there was a lot of room for us to gain. So even in that statistic, I think that it's a bit disingenuous because we we are still one of the states, either first or second, that voted for Vice President Harris by percentage. And so it's because we have so much room to grow that the Republican share of the vote is growing. But I think, again, to your point, Boston is still a very progressive city that is very much so respects and upholds progressive values. I think that our mayor is a lot more like our vice president than she is Donald Trump. And so, if the
Jesus. Oh, man.
statistics and numbers here in the city of Boston hold true, then she's likely to retain that position. But I think, again, to your point, it's very important that right now, especially here in Massachusetts, that we remain lockstep with our leadership. We are so blessed, and honestly, like I'm spiritual, so I'm gonna say blessed. We are blessed to have the leadership that we have on the municipal, state, and federal level. The fact that they are all, partners, they work closely together. The fact that um, we have, we have a governor who works closely with our federal delegation to make sure that there's money coming into the state of Massachusetts to funnel out to the different municipalities, and that here in Boston, that our mayor works is a really good friend and good partner to both the governor. So we're getting state funds into the city of Boston, but she's also good in good relationship with our federal leadership, with our congresswomen and our senators, so that there's federal dollars coming into the city of Boston as well. And so, to your point, we don't need to shake up that relationship, especially in this administration, where I'll be honest, states like ours are going to be targeted to defund. They are going to take away funds from our Department of Education in Massachusetts. They're going to take away funds from other departments here in the state, because it's going to be almost like, you all want to be a blue state. Well, here's what you get. You get scraps. You get nothing. And I think that that's also what
And
we
they don't
need
like
to.
Congresswoman Presley.
They don't like Congresswoman Presley. They definitely don't like our governor.
So
Governor Healy has
is a
taken on
woman and
Donald
she's
Trump as the
gay.
AG.
And she's gay. And Errin, we want so all right, Anthony, you good? Because I want to say my last part, and then I'm going to give it to Errin to close us out, the Black woman here with us. Last thing I'll do before I'll shut up is a few things there. Asia made a point, and Anthony and Errin, if you think about it, outside of Maura, Baker, before Baker was Patrick, and before Patrick was either Weld, and then before Weld, what was Swift? Was Swift Republican? I don't know all of it, but we traditionally, to Asia's point,
Massachusetts history,
we've had a lot of Republican governors, state, to Asia's point, but Boston and our Congress and our House and Representatives balance out that philosophy. And so other thing before the note is it is incumbent upon our local city council, county leaders to gauge the pulse of their constituency in those wards and precincts outside of caucus time all year long. Engage people that don't donate and haven't called your office for services and haven't voted. How you do that? Act like you're in a campaign when it's not an election. We talked about the picture, talked about values. I think I got all my notes. Anthony said something, Swift. Oh, Asia said Swift was Republican. So to her point, we're going to need to get Asia in here one day and do some commentary. I I think I got everything covered. The very last thing I would like to do is Errin made reference a few moments ago to a special guest that was in the room, and both of them, then Anthony and Errin. And Allen Cathedral, our pastor, say his name, Anthony.
Reverend Stephen A. Green.
Reverend Stephen A. Green, and shout out to brother Chris Bender that does some of the praise and worship down there, Boston's own down there, Allen Cathedral. They are having an event, the Soul Summit. And Anthony Anthony, you tell us, and then we're gonna let Errin close this out. Anthony, what is the Soul Summit about?
So the Soul Summit is it is a conversation around the Black church's role in politics. I think we've had a chance to go and be a part of this, and I'll actually be speaking in one of the sessions this year. But yeah, that's the purpose of the summit, is for us to talk about the role of the Black church in politics from a few different perspectives. I think we've delved into kind of how the Black church interacts with the LGBTQ community, how the Black church interacts with activists. We had a really lively conversation either last year or 2 years ago around kind of both the focus of bringing in activists into the church and how that can sometimes be difficult because with activists comes people who may not speak, who may curse every once in a while, or may come in smelling a certain way into the church, and the church isn't necessarily comfortable with that. But then it's like, do you take the church outside of the church into the community and to be a better place? And I think we all maybe not necessarily grew up in the era, but I think maybe more you, James, but even me, even Errin and I, we grew up in the era where the Black church.
So Errin, what was the last point you was trying to make? Errin got yo for 2 seconds. For 2 seconds, Errin didn't even peep the shade. She was like, well, where did he go? You see her? Go ahead, Anthony. I'm messing.
No, but the Black church was the cornerstone of the community, and I think we need to get back there. I think that, like, as we lose our faith and lose God, we're also losing our country and losing power. And so, I think that this convening is really important because there are a lot of pastors and church leaders who attend and are forced to come to terms with some of their beliefs or some of their long held kind of their church's beliefs, their church's board's belief, and challenge some of those things. And so it's a really good convening that's happening on Monday, December 16th, in Harlem, New York, December 16th and 17th.
I want to make sure I put that on screen along. Folks, we put the registration link in the comments. You can go here. I'm sure Chris will be doing a little something there. But Anthony, that is a whole nother. I've been thinking about getting yourself, Willie Baldrick. I don't know, maybe we can liaise Pastor Green to come, because at the end, the church was, I think, post-civil rights movement after that, and a lot of where the advocacy and progressive civil rights, post-Black civil rights and everything else, I'll just pause and say everything else post the Black civil rights is based upon our model. I'm just going to leave that there. The church kind of phased out, I think most impactfully, was post-George Bush's administration. That was a huge, there was an Office of Faith Initiatives. There was a White House office. Obama kept it with the good brother, Du Bois. And then, so all of that to say that the church is going to be paramount, not only in mobilization for 26, but at the end of the day, these churches like your 12th Baptist, like your, who else does all of those that do the community give outs, when the impact of the economy settles, it's going to be the churches and the nonprofits. I put this up earlier, and Errin, I'll shut up after this and just take us home. One of the things that stood out to me was that And Anthony, clarify for me, the Black Church PAC only received $150,000. Was that from the campaign, or did they donate $150,000 worth of in kind to support the campaign? Please clarify, because that contribution can go either way.
This is what they received from the campaign to mobilize voters, and I think you have Black Voters Matter is also on this same.
Who was very active in the text and whatnot too, and did a lot with also.
But these numbers are sad. These numbers are piss poor in comparison to what the white consultants were getting. And I know it looks like to us like these are nice, these are huge numbers. This is nice for your business to get this investment, but Black Voters Matter is a national organization that has national impact on Black voters nationally, and they got what, I can't see it right now. I can't $150,000 to mobilize voters nationally, in comparison to some of these firms that got hundreds of millions. And so I think this slide is more so to show you the investment that they did put into Black-owned firms and businesses, but and compare the comparison of this to what they were putting into these white-owned firms.
There is a lot of work that needs to be done.
And I just want to say, I got to say this: our little boutique social impact Black firm that you talk about, Jimmy, went and volunteered our time, our money, our businesses time and money and resources to be there in Pennsylvania. We didn't get $1 to be there in Pennsylvania to help. We went and volunteered because and honestly, looking at the number, the money that Black Voters Matter got, like they probably had a lot of people either volunteering, being overworked and underpaid. They weren't able to do a lot with that $150,000. And so again, the brunt of of a lot of this work, it still fell on Black people, even though we weren't being compensated to do it, if those numbers say anything.
Anthony, talk for 2 more seconds. I need to say and do something so Errin can shortly give us the last word.
What else do I want to say? All right, bet. So I got one more statistic that I can share with y'all. So we said that and this goes back to what I was just actually talking about, the investment, the money. So the last thing that I think is a big number or thing that's important to say is that a lot of money and time and effort went into courting, I would say, Republican voters or middle of the ground voters. You saw Vice President Harris on the trail with Liz Cheney. They were courting Nikki Haley voters. 4% of Republicans voted for Kamala. So 4% of the Republicans who did vote voted for her. So all of the hundreds and millions of dollars, honestly, the millions of dollars that was invested into, those swing voters, those Republican voters, those Nikki Haley voters, those Liz Cheney voters, only resulted in 4% of the vote. And so also return on investment wasn't there in terms of all the money and time that went into courting those voters. And again, could have been spent on talking to and investing in talking to Black and brown voters.
Errin, I'm coming. I just need to do one thing, and I'm almost done. Anthony, I just knew, because when you left it to me, I was going around telling everybody in Boston that the DNC picked up the Davis system. And picked up means picked up the bill, picked up the da-da-da-da-da. So before we get ready to go, I got to figure out how to do this. Hold on. How do you do this? There's no way. I can only do it this way now. For those of you that want to and would like to, after hearing that they went and volunteered, had influence, Errin went around and y'all can get me later. Ran around and got donations and Airbnb and advocated for printers and
And of that money that Errin said that she raised, all of it went to the campaign, paying for
I mean,
people to
that was
buy
a given.
food. Didn't
That
go
was just
back
the
to it didn't go
presumption.
back
Yeah.
to recouping some of our expenses. More so is what I'm
We're
saying. It
not
didn't go
talking
back
about
and recoup.
expenses, but we're also talking about the fact that y'all worked and did not receive. So the presumption was that the state party had arranged for this, and that so, Errin, so 5, 10, they multiply 100, whoever got the ability and the afterwatch, all of y'all to support the Davis system, whatever. I also need to name another thing in reference to what the Davis system is doing. This Tuesday night, we are going to be at Estella's downtown Boston. The Davis system is also working to support the Bishop McNamara School. They're in Baltimore. And so the link for that is there. I believe it's also set up. If you can't attend and you would like to donate, you may be able to donate there. Anthony, verify. If not, you can donate here. What I would tell you to do, if you're going to donate for the scholarship, put that in the memo. If you're going to donate to the Davis system, they don't know about this. They ain't asked about this. Anthony said what he said, and I'm sitting here like it's taking everything within me not to cuss. And so, matter of fact, let me be wise and get them off screen. So get $5, $10, go to their Cash App and send. I'm going to be very transparent. I'm late with their payment. And so that has an influence on them with a business. And so I'll figure out a little something to do. It ain't going to be what I owe them. But I'm done.
honestly too stunned to speak at this point.
Why is your Cash App? Is it going off? No, sir.
Thank you, Jim. My first point that I want to make is, you know how like when they do the presidential debates and after the debate is over, they give you like the time of like each candidate and how much time they took up. I need one of that for this because I was told I was going to get the most amount of time, but I think I still ended up the third. Still person on here, but you know it's fine. I think overall, don't put it on me when I'm leaning in.
Y'all don't get that. That's an insider. Oh my God, Errin, you did not. Okay, we're sorry.
One of the more important things that I want to ensure that is communicated from this conversation as well is that for the people who are in the work, for the people who do feel like you have political and policy knowledge, I think what we need to be doing over these next 4 years is really communicating the policy wins effectively. I think no matter what level you look at government, we see a lot of the times our elected officials are not able to effectively communicate to their bodies what the wins are that they have done, or you know, people just don't know. I feel like nobody is talking about the fact that recently, you know, like Mayor Wu has been able to get a partnership with rideshare companies, and now we're going to have free ride. There's a code where our seniors over 60 can get free rideshare ride to like doctor's appointments and all of this. But you know what they are talking about? The dang speed bumps. And I bet you that's all they're gonna keep talking about. And I do believe that she has a very great chance of winning, but I also believe that people are annoyed with speed bumps, and that'll be the thing that keeps them home, and they won't even care about these new programs and all the things that she has started. And so we really need to take time to educate. So overall, your marching orders is to chip away at that 30%. But I think of how we chip away at that 30% is by directly organizing within our communities and meeting people where they are to educate them on what is happening right now. Boom, boom. That's mine.
Thank you all for tuning in today. If you would like to support the Davis system, please make sure that you go to $1great8 and any amount can help, and make sure. Let me see. So I don't know what Errin could get or Anthony, but they need some self-care. We want to do that. Don't forget the Bishop McNamara event that is taking place. Oh Jesus. Wait. Okay. The Bishop McNamara fundraiser is on Tuesday, and for you to get information about that, you can go to the hyperlink. Oh, did I only put it in the banner and not put it in the comments? Oh, shoot. Hold on. Here we go. I think I got it. Yes, this is the hyperlink for Tuesday, and you should be able to donate there. I know Pops had it. I talked about Pops earlier with the tech. You can donate on there. And I'm just making sure I say as least as possible so Errin has the last word. Errin, say something so you have the last word. After Errin says, we're off of here.
See y'all later, Java family.